I want the real stuff, everybody listen up, cause I'll only say it once. I'm gonna show you all the path, if you want it bad. I'm gonna show you where it's at, yeah, how you can get it back. Yeah, cause I ain't never done, I'll be number one. Working hella hard until I get just what I want, yeah. Rises like the sun, yeah, fatal like a gun. Shooter's gonna shoot and I'm gonna shoot until I won, yeah. Always do it on my own, so I gotta get through it. And the only thing I know is to love what I'm doing. Never give up, never slow, till I finally prove it. Never listen to the no's, I just wanna keep moving. Yeah, I put out all this art, it's my only medicine, yeah. Everything I do, I'm just being genuine, yeah. I'm sick of being screwed, feel my own adrenaline. Yeah, I do just what I do, and I hope you let me in, yeah. Grateful, oh yeah, able, oh yeah, I'm stable, oh yeah, no label, oh yeah, you know me, I have you only, a path, I'm lonely, but damn, I'm going to win, yeah. Always do it on my own, so I gotta get through it. And the only thing I know is to love what I'm doing. Never give up, never slow, till I finally prove it. Never listen to the no's, I just wanna keep moving. Keep my head up when I act, head up, that's a fact. Never looking back, I'ma keep myself on track. Keep my head up, staying strong, always moving on. Feel I don't belong, tell my thoughts to move along. Push myself to be the best, die with no regrets. Live with every breath, see my message start to spread. And I had so many dreams, then you hit your teens. Life ain't really what it seems, try to find out what it means. Always do it on my own, so I gotta get through it. And the only thing I know is to love what I'm doing. Never give up, never slow, till I finally prove it. Never listen to the no's, I just wanna keep moving. Yeah, I put out all this art, it's my only medicine, yeah. Everything I do, I'm just being genuine, yeah. I'm sick of being screwed, feel my own adrenaline, yeah. I do just what I do, and I hope you let me in, yeah. I'm grateful, oh yeah, able, oh yeah, I'm stable, oh yeah, no label, oh yeah, you know me, I have only a path, I'm lonely, but damn, I'm going to win. I don't want no fake love, I want the real stuff. Everybody listen up, cause I'll only say it once. I'm gonna show you all the path, if you want it bad. I'm gonna show you where it's at, yeah, how you can get it back. Yeah, cause I ain't never done, I'll be number one.
Is this thing on? What's up, boys? Hope you're great. Let's start the chat by talking about citrulline. This, I guess this is somewhat of a common question that I get, you know, for erection quality for men. Is citrulline a good idea? And the answer is, surprisingly, it's actually very, very effective. Yeah, citrulline is very effective for erections for males. Could drop your blood pressure a little low, so you got to be a little careful with taking it. You know, sure, you could take it with tadalafil, but you probably want to dose the tadalafil a little low. You want to monitor your blood pressure throughout, but the major benefit of L-citrulline supplements is the conversion to arginine, and then the conversion to nitric oxide. I think the order effectively goes: citrulline is converted into arginosuccinate, which is then converted into arginine. More of that free arginine in the blood in the circulation serves as an effective immediate precursor for nitric oxide. So in that regard, I mean, nitric oxide is the primary chemical that you want facilitating erections. It's opening up blood vessels. It's forcing blood to stay trapped in the penis. In some cases, large doses of citrulline is able to overcome venous leakage, which is absolutely crazy. Now, there's like varying suggestions on the doses of citrulline for erectile issues or just to make erections harder. My personal opinion on the matter is you should start with 3 grams right away. 3 grams and move your way up to 6 grams. There are people taking as much as 10 grams, which, you know, I think you've got to be careful pushing past 6 grams of citrulline. The benefit that seems to come the most with citrulline is obviously erections, but it seems to happen over a period of time. Like you dose your first dose of citrulline and you might not really get anything. Second dose, same thing. But 4 or 5 days into it, you're going to start noticing more random erections, morning erections, nocturnal erections, etc. People tend to, and look, I'm probably guilty of this too, try to isolate erectile issues to hormone problems. And though it is largely hormones, right? Because I mean, there's studies on giving testosterone to nitric oxide deficient rats, and that basically like fixing the NO system and restoring penile function. But a good degree of it is also the blood flow outside of hormones, and you can optimize that just as you would by taking sildenafil or tadalafil with citrulline. Okay, the stuff is very effective, very fucking powerful. I think the only caveat is, number one, it can lower your blood pressure, so you gotta be careful with that. And number two, if you have any of the herpes viruses, HSV1 or HSV2, it's going to exacerbate them. So if you're on suppression therapy, you probably have to up your suppression therapy or do whatever you would do otherwise to avoid it. Avoid effectively an outbreak, because it can trigger HSV1 and HSV2 outbreaks via arginine, allowing the virus to further develop and end up on your lip or, God forbid, your genitals or whatever. So just something to look out for. Let's talk about DHT quickly. Look, I'm still experimenting with DHT. I have run as high, and this is going to sound crazy, as 200 milligrams in a day of DHT powder. All right, 200 milligrams a day of DHT powder. Now, I only was able to run that for 2 days, and then I got very, very low estrogen symptoms. And the fuck else happened? Yeah, I just had a little bit of sexual dysfunction from very high DHT. But I got to tell you, every time I've taken it so far, and especially as I took those higher doses of DHT powder, the nootropic effect is like modafinil. I mean, it's like instant energy, instant confidence, especially. Nothing can shake your confidence. It's very, very powerful. It just makes you think about the neurological interplay between DHT and neurotransmitters, which is something I think at some point I'm going to have to break down, because it's just so powerful. That said, I'm trying to think if there's anything else that's relevant here. Do I have source list? Boom, source list. Okay, so that's officially launched. This is a vetted source of anabolic agents, test of all esters, but importantly, DHT gel, ancillaries. I mean, I just ordered recently from one of the sources on the source list for very cheap, 10 vials of HCG 5000 IU. Okay. 10 vials of 5000 IU HCG, just a lot of HCG for, by the way, substantially cheaper than one 10,000 IU vial of Pregnil. Okay. Like the money you're saving on some of these sources is also fucking astronomical. So please pay attention to that. Source list is live right now at livecortex.com. I'll leave it on the screen. We'll just kind of place it up there a little bit for you guys so that you can be reminded throughout the podcast. Rackpull, good morning. Hope you're great. All right, let's get to questions here. I think Rackpull's got one for us. Any tips for running a successful TRT protocol without the use of HCG? Your best bet of doing this, your best way to do this would be to heavily supplement DHEA and pregnenolone. I mean, those things kind of contribute to the interstiticular hormone environment health, which HCG would as well. But secondarily, if you really want my honest answer, if you're not going to use HCG, then you would either have to use pure DHT or you would have to use Proviron, because they've got seminal vesicle optimization properties. They basically optimize the entire ejaculatory and sensation system, right? And the testicular hormone environment. DHT itself, like, is produced in the epididymis, among other places, in the sexual and the reproductive tract in males. And like, yeah, if you don't have it produced at large levels in the testicles, which would happen if you weren't running HCG, you're going to have sensation loss or a degree of ejaculatory, I wouldn't call it dysfunction, but it'll be less functional than normal. You know, that's one other thing, like running DHT. This happened with Proviron, and I think DHT itself is a little more powerful in this regard. My ejaculate volume is fucking substantially big. I mean, it's like porn star big. It's like, you know, when people take soy lecithin and like other stuff to shoot ropes, like just take DHT and it will fucking optimize the entire system. You're closer to climax a lot quicker with DHT in the system. So yeah, I mean, the answer to this would be DHEA, pregnenolone, Proviron, or DHEA, pregnenolone, DHT, with DHT being more powerful for the system, you know, in general. But Proviron, being basically somewhat close to a synthetic DHT is pretty effective for that system. Do I suggest you do this? Not really. Not really. I don't. I think you're still going to have some degree of fertility loss and, obviously intratesticular testosterone loss without the use of HCG. I just don't suggest that you do that. I think that it is unhealthy for the testicles to not use HCG when you're on TRT. I just think that's kind of the bottom line. Now, there are some people that seem to be able to get away with this, and it's hard for me, I don't want to say to believe them, but there must be some degree of, it's like they're overcoming some of the intratesticular suppression somehow. That's the only explanation for it. Right? Because exogenous hormones, they shut off luteinizing hormone and FSH. So, if people are able to sustain that somehow, it must not be shut down enough. Must not be shut down like a substantial amount. So, additionally, you would maybe want to consider in this case using recombinant follicle stimulating hormone. Yeah. That's the other option, so that your spermatogenesis is functioning as normally as possible. But generally speaking, you don't want to do this. You don't want to do this. Thank you, Dream Big. Let's dream big. Rackpool, what makes citrulline better than just taking arginine? I've always heard citrulline is better. It's an absorption. It's a matter of absorption. So arginine, what it looks like the literature is saying is that some of it gets destroyed in the digestive tract. Not sure if that's because of hydrochloric acid or stomach acid, but that's effectively the reason. And citrulline acts more as a sustainable release or sustainable conversion to arginine, which ultimately ends up in the bloodstream and getting destroyed less by, gastric juices. And then you have more of a sustainable conversion to nitric oxide. That's really the difference. Yeah, if you scour the ED subreddits, then you'll find this notion repeated kind of over and over again, that citrulline is in fact superior to arginine. Now, here's the thing. This doesn't mean that you can't take arginine and get a positive effect. I've taken arginine, a couple grams, and have had an erectogenic effect. So you can. It's just it's possible that it's shorter lived and less sustainable over time. Okay, that's basically the bottom line. But they're both effective. They're both highly effective to take. Anybody with ED or erectile issues at any capacity, yeah, sure, 5 milligrams tadalafil a day. But here's the thing about tadalafil and nitric oxide and erections. If you aren't making enough nitric oxide, the efficacy of PDE5 inhibitors is substantially less. Yeah. If for some reason you're depleted on nitric oxide because you've been non-judiciously avoiding, foods that have arginine in them, like in the case of HSV1 or HSV2, then yeah, tadalafil, sildenafil, this stuff, you're going to require a lot higher doses because you just don't have the nitric oxide to support ultimately the opening of blood vessels, right? So you're going to want both, right? You're going to want to get a healthy amount of, arginine into your diet, or just take citrulline or take arginine, as well as finding the dose of a PDE5 inhibitor that makes sense for you, that doesn't cause problems. Good morning, wonderful people. Anonymous goes, he wants to sell the source list. Yeah, bro. I don't know, 8 years, 9 years, 9.5 years of free content and hours upon hours upon hours upon hours upon hours, far more time than you spend at your job building all of this content, etc. Yeah, sure. Yes, absolutely. We're a business. LOL. LOL at you, bro. All right. Questions, boys. If you got them, post them and let's get to it. Oh, this guy. Am I? Hey, Anonymous, why don't you tell people why you think I'm a joke? I'd love it. You want to debate in front of everybody since you want the fucking limelight here, right? You're probably a guy that disagreed with me at some capacity and I logicked you into a fucking fetal position and now you're upset. Are you upset? I wonder what you'd look like in real life. I wonder if in real life you'd be saying this shit to my fucking face. Dream big. Can P5P disturb your sleep if taken before bed because of an increase in adrenaline? Definitely. Yeah, that stuff's very fucking powerful, man. I had a guy recently, a client, we were trying to basically revive some aspect of his libido. Like it was estrogen dependent, and we got him dialed in now, but I had brought P5P into his regimen, and dude, it was 2 or 3 days after the first couple days of administering it, he's like, bro, I am so anxious. I can't fucking be around people. I don't know what's wrong. I'm just like super on edge and like I fucking can't tolerate it. And at the time we were experimenting with some estrogen reduction, so we thought it might have been that. But then we removed the P5P and he was like better in a day. So yeah, you got to be careful with this stuff. It is powerful stuff. You know, I mean, that's why it's so effective for synthesizing dopamine. That's why it can be used in conjunction with cabergoline as a dopamine enhancer and as a prolactin reduction agent. Like, it's in the literature as equally effective at high doses, which is crazy because CAB's such an effective drug. But a good combination drug to use with cabergoline to lower prolactin. I don't have this problem, and I think the primary reason that I don't have this issue is because I split it up. If I were to take if I dose 200 milligrams at a time of P5P, I think I'd be in trouble. Yeah, I mean, I've done that before and I felt a little on edge. If I had done that, like if I did that every day, I would have anxiety problems like after dosing it and probably leading into later on that night, and it might mess with my sleep or whatever. But, I'm dosing like right now 50 milligrams 3 times a day. Yeah, once in the morning, once at like noon, after I've exercised and reset my neurotransmitters to a large degree by doing cardio and going to the gym. And then right around 5 p.m., usually when I'm out hanging out with friends, that's when I dose my my last dose of P5P. But if I had dosed 200 milligrams at a time or 300 at a time or something, I think I'd have this problem. Blind Robert Evans, off topic, but an update regarding prolactin. So this guy has had some prolactin issues, was suspecting a pituitary adenoma. MRI results came back and pituitary is normal, so cause must be benign. At that point, you got to look at your regimen, man. I mean, what in your regimen is causing your prolactin to increase? And there are many things that can do that, not the least of which is kratom. Alcohol is actually a direct secretor of prolactin. It probably works via a direct mechanism of the lactotropes on the pituitary. So I don't know if you're drinking alcohol, if you smoke pot, again, that's pretty estrogenic and that can be prolactogenic. If you're on androgens, there's maybe 1 in 40 people that's prolactin goes up very significantly in response to androgens. And that's an estrogen mediated mechanism, which DHT would inhibit, by the way. There's a paper on that. So yeah, I just look into everything you're taking, man. I mean, if you're taking any supplements that inhibit the dopamine D2 receptors, which then this would cause this. And you should just go Google each of the supplements or even drugs that you're taking and make sure that they don't interact with those receptors in a negative way, because then definitely your prolactin is going to go up. If you don't have a pituitary adenoma, and you're not taking any of these things, like there's really no other reason for prolactin to be high. So it's got to be one of these reasons. So please check out your regimen. Not a whole lot of opinion on this. I know of it, but haven't studied it particularly. But yes, I guess that's a good point. We're happy to hear you don't have pituitary adenoma. I mean, that would be problematic, man. That sucks. It's a life-changing thing for a long time, and if you don't get a hold of it quick, you can have sexual dysfunction that persists for many fucking years. That's hard to reverse even with androgens. You just got to be really, really targeted to reverse it. Steve, wonderful. On SIP, various dosages and timing for a year. Libido not good at all, nor erections. Last estradiol was 36. Provider just added cream to my protocol. 1 click twice a day. Thoughts? That 1 click twice a day might do something. It might just boost your testosterone somewhat higher without, if you're putting it on the testicles, at least without an ensuing rise in estradiol, which would be helpful for erections specifically. But listen, number one, TRT is not hormone replacement. Okay, Leo said this, guys. Leo said this. TRT is not hormone replacement. Okay, TRT is testosterone replacement, and that is all it is. Okay, it's just testosterone replacement. And obviously some conversion to DHT and conversion to estradiol. But if you're not using DHEA, pregnenolone, and HCG, because HCG doesn't take the place of DHEA and pregnenolone, that's been proven. I've looked at blood work, and HCG is making really no difference on DHEA, pregnenolone levels. So something to think about for people. Hopefully I can abolish that myth right here and right there. But if you're not taking those things, then you're missing out on a variety of other downstream hormones, right? And neurotransmitter effects, receptor effects. So that's one powerful thing. You also need to look at whether or not you're converting enough of your TAS to DHT. which, I mean, even if you have relatively in-range DHT, you just might need more DHT, in which case you'd want to use exogenous DHT or proviron in that case. Is your free testosterone not going as high as you need it to be for erections? I've seen these weird cases where regular TRT doses won't do it, but you put someone on a high dose of prop, they're peaking into the 3000s and then they have wood all the time. It isn't just the case, by the way, that 1200 to 1500 nanograms per deciliter is going to get you resolution of symptoms regarding erections, especially if you had libido and erection issues prior to going on TRT. Well, then you had androgen deprivation, and you're going to need not only androgens, but probably penile rehab, PD5 inhibitors, maybe citrulline over time to kind of restore erections. But, also, this tells me nothing about your protocol. So, what's the dose of testosterone that you're on? And why is your estradiol at 36? Are you taking an AI? Maybe that's fucking with you. If it's Arimidex, switch to Aromasin. That helps people sometimes because the estrogen moves down lower, right? And kind of stays at that level for longer when you get to that lower level. I mean, I have guys that take Arimidex no matter what dose, and they have ED from Arimidex. They're taking it to try to alleviate some estrogenic symptom, and they take Arimidex, and then their dick goes soft for like a week until it's like the estrogen comes back up. It's not just exclusively an estrogen reduction mechanism. It's Arimidex, right? It's shutting down aromatase in the brain, and it's shutting down aromatase elsewhere. So I would need a better look at your protocol to determine exactly what's happening. And you can super chat that if you want to do a deeper dive. Best nootropic to boost libido in men. I mean, you'd be looking at a dopaminergic, but you don't want to think about libido in terms of neurotransmitters, or at least trying to affect neurotransmitters first to trigger libido. You want to affect neurotransmitters through modulating hormones. Like that's what they do. Like all like hormones and their effect on libido, it's really through actions on neurotransmitters. So you want to hit it in the reverse end first. But I mean, if your hormones are in a relatively good place and you don't think or suspect that that's the problem, then P5P would be a good strategy. Anything that increases dopamine. You just want to focus on dopamine. I mean, there are people that get libido benefits from taking modafinil because you've got some more dopamine that's kept around and is sort of resistant to clearing for a period of time in the effect duration window of the drug. So you want to look at that. Cabergoline is hit or miss for people in activating dopamine D2 receptors and triggering some of the mental part of libido, specifically via hypothalamic dopamine. So that may or may not work for you. It all really depends. But if you're looking to boost libido, I would not be looking at nootropics for that. Yeah, they're sort of inconsequential. They're like indifferent. It's like they won't really help one way or the other unless it's a targeted dopamine supplement. All right, Blind Robert Evans, in regards to this prolactin thing, says, I drink socially maybe once a week and haven't used kratom in a long time, but you did use kratom at some point, okay? So that might be the issue. You probably have to just get that prolactin via the use of cabergoline, if I were you, into, you probably want to get like pretty low, like 2 to 8 nanograms per milliliter, and then your problem should be resolved over time. I mean, I don't think at that point, if you get it down, if there's nothing in your regimen that's causing it to go up, well, then it'll stay down. But if you do this and get it down into range, and then your prolactin goes back up, well, then you have an indicator that something in your regimen is still causing this issue, which you've really got to look at, man. Dark Fitness, thoughts on semen retention and reduced ejaculation frequency? Some validity to it, or hippy dippy bullshit? Well, it's largely bullshit, but the validity really lies in not increasing prolactin via ejaculation. When you ejaculate, you increase prolactin. Prolactin inhibits luteinizing hormone, which means you're inhibiting your testosterone for a brief period. And the nanograms per milliliter increase in prolactin after ejaculation is 10 to 15 nanograms per milliliter. So that's pretty significant. That can take you over range. This is why your dick goes limp and you have no libido for a brief period, in your effective refractory period after ejaculation. It's because of prolactin. So any internet discussion about nofap or like not ejaculating and that helping sexual function is as a result of prolactin not being secreted consistently. Like these guys that end up in these semen retention situations or nofap, well, those are like frankly, chronic frequent masturbators. And when you frequently masturbate, you're frequently ejaculating. You're not just going to masturbate. What's the fun in that, right? You're ultimately targeting the climax. So, each time you do that, you're releasing prolactin, which is causing a problem. If you consistently released prolactin via frequent ejaculation, then you would have sexual dysfunction. So, in these cases, like, it's useful for people to stop ejaculating. That's just kind of the bottom line. Now, for a regular guy that doesn't have these type of issues, is semen retention going to help them to have bigger loads or to maybe come to climax quicker when they go back around to masturbating? Well, yes. Again, though, that's because they're not releasing prolactin. And because each time you do that, you're probably lowering some degree of androgens. You might be lowering DHT to an extent. Whereas, like, to give you a flip side example, I'm taking DHT powder at various doses. I'm kind of really 30 to 50 milligrams is like kind of the best range, but I like to experiment with shit. So I had been taking 200 for 2 days, which was interesting. But like, in addition to that, TRT, DHA, pregnenolone, I'm taking a heavy desiccated thyroid supplement, which is very fucking effective for the system. I've got the right dose of aromatase. I've got super high levels of fucking testosterone. The combination of all and I'm taking P5P as well. Multivitamin, vitamin D, just a host of things. The combination of all that stuff, I can ejaculate 3 hours later, ejaculate again, 3 hours later, ejaculate again, and I'm fine. No volume loss, none of that stuff. But I'm taking exogenous DHT, which contributes to the fucking seminal vesicles and production of semen and the actual volume. So, big difference. So no, I don't think it's hippy dippy bullshit, but I think there's an error in attribution, or at least a non-nuanced approach about what's happening. People are like, well, this, like, not ejaculating or not masturbating helps my sexual function. Well, that's true, but it's because you're not releasing prolactin, etc. Dream big. Opinion on large doses of CDP choline, 250 milligrams 2 times a week versus 20 every day. I think both can be effective. The reason that I typically, after decades of doing consulting on nootropics, have come to the more conservative side of all of this is that the chances for you to have side effects, mainly brain fog and lethargy, increase with the more choline you take, and specifically the more bioavailable choline you take. So if you're like mega dosing CDP consistently, you're going to very quickly find out, unless you have Alzheimer's or like a serious choline dysfunction or serious choline inhibition via a drug. If you don't have those things, you're going to quickly find out that your body it can't handle all that acetylcholine, that brain acetylcholine. So over the years, I've come to learn that lower doses, 20 to 50 milligrams a day, if you can even tolerate that, because some people can't. Some people, that's too much choline for them, are ultimately better than like bolus dosing of choline. Now, again, as I alluded to, if you're somebody who has been taking anticholinergic sleep agents, a lot of sleep agents are basically just anticholinergic drugs, or taking other drugs that are antagonizing acetylcholine receptors, well, then, yeah, you're going to be able to tolerate more choline. It'll probably do you good. It might help upregulate the system. Your brain's going to fire better, etc. So hope that helps. Mauricio, good day, brother. Which will be the best ratio between free testosterone and estradiol for boosting libido? I really don't think that there's a ratio that you can apply to everybody regarding that. And it's your free test isn't the driver of libido. It's really not. It's testosterone to an extent in the brain. It's testosterone's conversion to estradiol in the brain. It's estradiol not being too high and not being too low. It's a proper neurotransmitter profile, which you can only achieve through diet and exercise, really, and the avoidance of bad shit like pot and booze and whatever at large quantities. And when it comes to like this context of exogenous hormones, it's the intratesticular hormone environment, being in check and in play with the right balance of hormones. So many people solve their libido problems, with just taking DHA and pregnenolone and HCG at the same time. Like people thinking they don't have to dose this stuff and they've got fucking libido issues on TRT. Well, that's because you're omitting a bunch of hormones, and you need those hormones for the brain side of libido. So, it's not about the ratio of free test to estradiol. It's about all these other things. Steve Wonderful is on HCG. 0.25 mil twice weekly. Would more frequently be better or a higher dose? Provider also wants to have pregnenolone checked. Whether or not your pregnenolone is in range, you're going to benefit from using it. Yeah, I wouldn't even really. People go, oh, well, you should check your pregnenolone and see if that, you know, if it's low and or normal, and that should dictate whether or not you should supplement. No. You should supplement with pregnenolone regardless. Yep, you are not making enough pregnenolone regardless. You're just not making enough. And over time, if you're making enough now, you're not going to make enough. So take pregnenolone, take it every day, 10 to 30 milligrams. HCG, quite honestly, 250 IU every other day is a good starting point. I've done a video on this, and you can search it on the channel. It's something to the effect of how to dial in HCG for perfect libido. So please go find that video on the channel and watch it and follow that strategy, which says to start at 250 IU every other day and move upward if you need to. Don't move downward at that point. PBB, which hormone should I check first to see why my libido is low apart from free testosterone? Well, total test, estradiol. If it's too high, that's a problem. If it's too low, that's a problem, although less of a problem for natties if it's too low. Prolactin will inhibit libido completely inhibit libido. Again, estradiol being, God, the fucking range is so fickle. It's like 25 to 45 is where you're going to find libido be good, below which and above which there's probably going to be some degree of problem. So I would look at those things first, and then I would also look at dihydrotestosterone. You know, if your DHT is tanked because you took finasteride, minoxidil, which does go systemic, by the way, and does cause fucking problems. I mean, I have full-blown PFS patients, clients rather, that only took minoxidil. Those things could be contributing. Booze, complete inhibitor to libido. You know, in the acute period, you might feel better the next day, but while you're drinking, it basically shuts off that stuff. Actually, alcohol forces the conversion of DHT to some of DHT's metabolites. So it basically reduces the effect duration window of your own endogenous dihydrotestosterone. Alcohol does. That's one of the fucking reasons for whiskey dick, by the way. The other reason is estradiol and prolactin. Okay, Jay Brody, how many weeks does it take to dial in aromatase protocol? Also, should we take aromatase the same day as ejection? Yes, if you've got the dose right. And as far as weeks go, if you have the right starter strategy, which is, as I've described in probably the last video or the video before last, which is a full breakdown on aromatase, where I break down the doses. If you follow those instructions, it should take you like 2 weeks, 3 weeks to dial in, you know, and you'll be good to go at that point. Yeah, you want to start on TRT doses, 3.125 to 6.25 milligrams once a week. Determine if you need that twice a week. And you determine that if estrogen comes back at day 5 and you're having like libido, erectile issues again at day 5, you know, and you can attribute that to estrogen coming up because you've run bloods on it and not estrogen being lower still from the effect of aromatase, well, then it would be time to dose again. Even on higher doses of testosterone, like, yeah, the suggestion is 12.5 milligrams at once, like 200 to 350 milligrams of testosterone per week. But some of those guys are only going to require 6.25 once every 7 days. You know, so this is the trickiest part of TRT, actually. I mean, this is the thing that keeps people, if they don't dial it in some degree of sexual dysfunction or otherwise problems for a year, 2 years or more. Yeah, they just can't find their AI dose that makes sense for them. That's it. You know, and if they go low on testosterone, they end up having less of everything, you know, less anabolism, less energy. They kind of just generally feel like shit. And still, they might need a little bit of an AI. And that becomes problematic because then you're dropping the estrogen way too low because it's already low. You know, so that was a long-winded way of saying it should take you about 3 weeks if you follow those instructions. Yeah, my thyroid's fine, but I get more energy from taking a bovine desiccated thyroid supplement from New Zealand. Yeah, you can get that from Amazon. It's by a company called Evolved Elements. Yeah, bovine desiccated thyroid supplement. You can find that. If you just search that on Amazon, you'll find it. I take one of those a day and it's fucking powerful. Jim Maxim is saying, I thought you were exaggerating about deep intramuscular injections. I made the switch last week. Libido is already back. What do you know? I mean, this is just not uncommon stuff, man. I mean, again, I've been saying this for fucking years. It's different. It's different. Now look, sub-Q can work too. Sub-Q can work. It's all a matter of the concentration at once. And you have to be able to identify like do I metabolize sub-Q test poorly, compared to how I metabolize intramuscular test, Yeah, and this is not uncommon for people to be injecting sub-Q and libido is like shit, erections are shit, and they just switch to intramuscular and everything's resolved. It's not uncommon for this to happen, man. It's not, there's reasons to do sub-Q. I tolerate sub-Q fine. Like I metabolize it fine on higher doses of testosterone. On very low doses of testosterone, it's a little subpar. I'd rather be doing intramuscular, frankly. On higher doses, like cycle level doses of testosterone enanthate, I can tolerate sub-Q fine. What does that tell you? It tells you that I'm getting enough at once because it's a higher dose. It's a higher dose. Deep intramuscular injections are how testosterone enanthate, testosterone cypionate, and testosterone propionate are supposed to be injected. That's just the bottom line. That doesn't mean that subcutaneous injections aren't effective, because they are, and that's studied. But there seems to be more of a group of people that don't do as well on subcutaneous injections versus intramuscular injections, deep intramuscular injections. That's a reality. So, and this is case in point, this isn't surprising to me that your libido is better switching to intramuscular injections. I've been telling people this for a while, and I hope that people really take heed to this. That's the lowest hanging fruit besides like P5P that you can add to a TRT regimen, or change in this case if libido is problematic, right? Is just do deep intramuscular injections. Usman is here. Kamaru, are you here? How much EPA DHA for brain rejuvenation? Well, that alone is probably not going to rejuvenate your brain. So that's sort of a loaded question that assumes that, EPA and DHA is going to rejuvenate your brain. It won't necessarily. I mean, if a person is 73 and having brain issues, you probably should be taking choline, something that converts to acetylcholine, B vitamins, and DHA, and uridine. And that's really where you're going to get a good degree of brain rejuvenation, if it's even possible at that age. Dream big. Arm and hands go numb sometimes on P5P. What can I take for GABA deficiency? Will theanine work? Now, I would be if this is actually happening to you, I'd be taking picamilin, because that's bioavailable GABA. A GABA supplement itself will be useful, but bioavailable blood-brain barrier crossing GABA is going to be more useful in this case. I wouldn't like waste your time on theanine in this particular, because I just get some picamilin. If this keeps happening, lay off the P5P, man. Get your GABA up by taking picamilin, and then reintroduce P5P. Grams of protein, I don't know. I don't count it. I'm not a bodybuilder. I'm not trying to be a bodybuilder. I'm effectively on a testosterone cycle and have been for 4 months now, because I'm curious and I want to see, and I also feel better, and the sexual performance is better so long as estrogen is controlled. My body just likes higher levels of androgens for now. That might change in the future, but yeah, I mean, again, bacon and eggs in the morning is my breakfast with a fucking English muffin. I go to the gym at 11 a.m. now, lift weights, and then run. It's 15 to 20 minutes, usually just high intensity on a treadmill, like sprints back and forth, but running the whole time. Then after that, it's a protein, rice, avocado, and usually some sprouts or an otherwise vegetable. And then for dinner, similar template, unless I'm out, in which case it's going to be something not good like wings or something, but it's protein there. So I really don't count it. I don't know. Zachary Blatt, for those with poor digestion, would injecting BCAAs increase blood protein levels? I don't know that would do what you want it to do. With poor digestion, you have to look at a lot of things, man. You get, gut dysbiosis, I think, is the primary driver of that, particularly if you're fermenting carbohydrates in a way which is creating gas, which is basically the basis for digestive problems people have with SIBO. Alternatively, though, a very common one is Helicobacter pylori. It's a bacteria that you have in your stomach regardless, but it can get completely out of control and cause digestive issues via basically inhibiting your stomach acid production. And you could stay there for years and years and years and years. If you have that, your best bet at eradicating it would be mastic gum, high doses of mastic gum. Yes, there are sources in the source list that ship to Canada, that ship to Germany, that ship everywhere. There are international arms in the source list, as well as the USA domestic arms in the source list. Is it possible to have an immune response to HCG? Absolutely. Yep. yes, people have to remember, and if you didn't know this, like your mother's HCG is responsible for, in part, like the formation of your immune system when you're a baby. It's a very, very critical part of it. HCG is immunogenic. It is. And so, sure, but it's not the HCG that's causing this. It's like your over exaggerated immune response that is causing you to have an immune response from something that's immunogenic. Like, I don't have an immune response to HCG, right? Because my immune system's in check. I dose a lot of vitamin D, whatever. I've just been healthy for years. So there's that. But it is definitely in response to your immune system. Being a little over responsive to immunogenic stuff. And COVID could cause this. I mean, there's just that's really over the last 4 or 5 years, like the biggest driver of immunogenic problems. It's actually the biggest driver of fucking health problems that people have is actually just having COVID. More so than people think. So might want to look into that, whether you had long COVID or not, or if that's a response to that, or you just have an autoimmune thing, like you've got an immune system problem, which is making you respond excessively to HCG. All right, Sean Houston is asking about a guesstimate on aromasin. Well, where would you guesstimate aromasin dosage to be for 300 tests, 150 deca per week, as well as 60 milligrams? So, okay, I don't know which 60 milligrams is referring to, but on 300 to test at this point, you probably want, and deca. Again, I think you should just start at the standard doses for those TRT doses, which is between 6.25 and 12.5 milligrams once a week. Go to twice a week if you need to. If you notice that 6.25 or even 12.5 once a week is not enough. Yeah. And you really should be measuring estradiol at day 6 or 7 to determine, do I need to take more? Are the symptoms I'm having because estrogens come back? The aromatase enzymes have new ones have formed in response to me killing some with aromasin, and now this is causing the problem that I'm having. But yeah, that's what I would suggest. Oddly though, I see it all over the board. Like I see people that 3.25 once a week in this particular case is what they need. I see a very few amount of people that don't need an AI on this dose. Most people do. And I think the first thing to go is just erectile function. Alex, would you say it takes 4 weeks for maximum libido erections when starting TRT? Unknown. Yeah, it's because again, TRT, you guys have to include nuance in your understanding, not just your questions, but your understanding of what's happening here. TRT is not hormone replacement. It's testosterone replacement. You lose a bunch of hormones when you go on TRT. So you must supplement with DHEA, pregnenolone, HCG. A lot of people are going to have a benefit on top of TRT by adding proviron or DHT itself. So, or DHT derivatives. These are things to think about so that they optimize the ARs. So, there is no set answer. It could be 6 months if your protocol is bad. If you're not taking HCG, if your doc is saying is in one of those weird camps, which, manifested as a result of idiots on the internet, that you don't have to manage your estrogen, like this hormone that's predominantly a female hormone that you make in very small amounts for a fucking very particular reason. It going in substantial superphysiologic levels is not good for human males. It's just not how we're supposed to be wired ever. Even in the presence of exogenous hormones, there's a threshold there. So yeah, you, for your own understanding, need to include nuance in your thinking process of formulating this question, Yeah, because ultimately, who knows? Depends on the protocol, man. If the protocol's right, you're having erections in a week. Yeah. You're having erections and libido just fucking upticking in a week. Sometimes after the first injection, if it's a bolus injection at once, that's pretty common. Chris, any recommendations for controlling high hematocrit when on androgens? Yes. Do jogging every day or every other day. It's going to be a pain in the ass initially. It might suck. It might be very uncomfortable. Your cardio is going to have to get used to that. But if you just start running, and you don't have to run a lot. If you run 1.5 miles, 2 miles a day, which is pretty minimal, and that's like it's a very little investment to start, which just doesn't seem overpowering or whatever, daunting. your hematocrit's going to go down. You know, people tell you to drink a lot of water. Sure, that's going to help, but it doesn't help everybody. In fact, it helps less people than people would have you believe. Supplementally, you would just want to take a compound called naringin, Naringin. Yeah, it's an extract from grapefruit, which will lower your hematocrit over time. Those are the primary things that you want to look out for and that you want to introduce into the regimen. Lastly, though, if you don't manage estrogen ever, but you feel good otherwise, but your hematocrit is high, that's why. You know, estrogen. I mean, you can go Google this, and there's a big paper on it that there's a strong association between serum hematocrit levels and serum estrogen levels. The higher the estradiol goes, the higher the hematocrit's going to go. So just something to think about. Samuel Turner is 200 milligrams P5P daily, the same as running 0.25 milligrams cabergoline weekly. No, not at all. They are not the same drug. They do different things. I mean, cabergoline binds to antagonizes some serotonin receptors, which is the basis for lots of cumulative cabergoline being bad for cardiac muscle. So something to think about. I mean, cabergoline stays at the dopamine D2 receptor for like 60 hours, whereas P5P is kind of in and out. You synthesize some dopamine. It has its action for maybe 6 to 8 hours, maybe 1 to 2 days. Nobody really knows. And then that's kind of out of the system. So these are vastly different compounds. Just because they do somewhat of the same thing doesn't mean that they'll behave the same or that you can compare them in terms of doses. You definitely can't. So no, this is the thing. You guys got to think a lot more nuance about this stuff. Is 200 milligrams P5P a completely different drug, B vitamin, the same as running 0.25 cabergoline weekly? Hell no. Think about it. Yeah. My best advice to you is to try to think about things from a much more nuanced perspective. That would be my best advice. But no, it's definitely not the same. I don't even know if you could, 200 milligrams is kind of the higher tolerable limit for P5P. 250, 300. If you're splitting it up, you could reach a comparable effect in terms of prolactin lowering by doing that compared to 0.25 cabergoline. But these are very different drugs that do different things to you over time. Leaky gut. Glutamine is really the proposed solution for that. But if there's some sort of inflammatory thing that's happening that's causing you to have fucking permeability of your intestinal lining, then you've got to get to the bottom of whatever is causing it. I think pathogenic bacteria can cause that. And what I mean by that is bacteria that you already have native in your gut, but that are in larger quantities than they should be over gram-positive species of bacteria, which there's only a couple situations in which that happens, and one of them is not eating carbohydrates. This is why I fucking warn people against keto if you want like a healthy gut. So that'd be my initial suggestion. For Picamillin, just go to nootropicscourse.com, and buy their Picamillin. They've got Picamillin sodium powder, and that's really what you want. Yeah, that's the best stuff. There's a brand called, what is it called? Smart something. See, I'm going to butcher this because I don't even know what the brand is called. I think they're called Smart something or other on Amazon that I think has a Picamillin supplement. But have I tested that? I don't think I've tested the efficacy of that. Yeah, just go nootropicscourse.com, buy Picamillin sodium powder, and go to town. Dose 200 to 800 milligrams. You're going to find your dose. It really all depends on the person. I am thinking about... I guess I'm pretty close to cycling off of like cycle levels of testosterone and going to a very high TRT dose, like 350 or 400 milligrams, which people would obviously consider a cycle. I don't consider 350 a cycle. I think that's the borderline. I don't know when I'm going to make that jump. The issue I'm running into with cream is I'm just getting acne, like my acne on my right arm. On my back, it's like fine. But on my arms now, I'm starting to get acne from the cream cycle. I'm running fucking 7 pumps of cream a day. And that's just become something that's been really difficult for me to weather. Lots of salicylic acid, lots of this particular type of antibacterial soap that I use that's very effective. It's just been a little out of control, right? I never have acne on my arms here. So that's really come about on cycle, but also using cream. So I'm going to try to probably switch back down to high dose TRT, basically borderline TRT, low level cycle, 250 to 400 milligrams very fucking soon. And I'm looking forward to it. I like changing things. I like doing that. If it's a long ester, well, it would be enanthate, not cypionate. I'll front load for sure because that cream will be out of my system in like 2 days, 3 days. I'll have to front load to get to probably about 2,000 nanograms per deciliter, after which I'll run probably 50 milligrams a day intramuscular, or maybe 100 every other day intramuscular. So we'll see about that. I'm not sure I'll go back on prop right now. I have a ton of it, but also my clinic doesn't have it, and I'd rather use pharmaceutical grade prop. But who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? But yeah, I'm getting acne that I cannot control on my fucking arms from lots of cream right now. And it's just become a little bit of a pain in the ass. Sam, do you have a recommendation for a provider from Defy? Yeah, use a guy named Michael. I forget his last name, but there's a guy named Michael there. He's a southern, like, mild-mannered, very fucking cool guy that will listen to you, you know, like on your consults with him. You can book consults too. You pay a nominal fee or something, it's like 90 something bucks, and you can have a 20-minute conversation with him to dial your protocol in further, or just have him give you recommendations. But the important part about Defy and Michael specifically is he'll be willing to, and I think generally the staff is kind of lenient in this regard, they'll be willing to listen to you if you're not having symptom resolution on lower doses of androgens. That, you know, they'll prescribe you higher doses of testosterone above what people consider TRT if it means symptom resolution is better, and if you can manage your bloods to stay in a reasonable place, specifically lipids and hematocrit and blood pressure. So that's why Defy is good. Now, Defy also has like some downsides, you know, like the last month and a half, they've been out of a couple things, namely testosterone propionates, you know, their pharmacy and power pharmacy. Same thing with testosterone cream. They've had to use different vendors to send testosterone cream to people than Empower Pharmacy. So they have shortages every now and then, probably because they're very popular. But if you're going to go with them, find Michael, ask for Michael. You don't want any of the female ones. You know, I've dealt with a few of the female ones there. And I'm sure this is going to sound fucking sexist to lefties, but I don't give a fuck. The female ones that I've dealt with there, I mean, they just kind of have no idea. It's just, they're very broad brush. It's very surface level stuff. Like, I don't need them to dial my protocol in, but it's like, you can just tell you've got educational prowess, experience with working with people on TRT versus not. So don't, you know, if you get a female one, make sure you seek to get a male provider. Dopamina is saying, yo, Ryan, any tips on dealing with water retention from HCG? That's the only real side effect I get from experiencing it. No, not other than manage your estradiol. No, I would wager that you're pretty early onto your like TRT tenure, and you're having water retention as a result of that. Or, you know, I don't know. I don't know what your lifestyle's like. I mean, lifestyle's a pretty big contributor to this stuff. If you're not sweating out, you know, your body's not working very efficiently via cardio specifically, but also lifting weights, then you're going to have water retention issues. But estradiol, you know, I mean, you just might be one of those people that needs a very low dose of an AI like aromatase at 6.25 once a week. And then the water retention goes away. Yeah, again, 7 pumps of cream right now. But if you look at my videos in the last 4 months, I've been on 500 milligrams testosterone enanthate a week, and I had no water retention, none. Or how am I having no water retention of 500 milligrams testosterone enanthate, but you have some from a little bit of HCG, right? You got to think about that. So do the cardio, dude. Maybe watch your sodium if it's excessive. And that would really, your blood pressure would be the gauge of that. If your blood pressure is a little higher, then sure, that's more reason to lower the sodium a little bit. Drink adequate water, because that will help, you know, keep your bladder functioning and keep antidiuretic hormone in a way which is filtering water out of you somewhat consistently, which is a good thing as long as it's not excessive. And then lastly, manage estrogen. Manage that estrogen, man. Maurizio is taking a gram of Schisandra daily. Will that lower prolactin in a matter of days? For Schisandra, what I think is that you've got to take 2 to 3 grams a day in order to lower prolactin substantially. Now, this all really depends, though, on whether or not you have something that's causing prolactin to go up. Like if you were simultaneously taking kratom, you'd have to take 3-4 grams of Schisandra to counter that, if that's even possible. But if nothing is causing your prolactin to go up, then yeah, probably 1 gram to 2 grams, 1.5 grams to 2 grams would be enough to lower prolactin. But I would pair this with P5P as well. 50 milligrams twice a day or 50 milligrams 3 times a day, whatever you can tolerate of P5P. And then I think you'll be fine. Gravbender, source list is great, have microscales, but can't discern what 15 milligrams of DHT is. Can you describe 15 milligrams or illustrate? No, I can't illustrate what 15 milligrams of DHT is. You have to get a milligram scale, my friend. You've got to get a milligram scale. Dopamina, yes, I just started TRT. Yeah, right. So here's a person that's got water retention on a little bit of HEG, just started TRT. So again, also over time, the body responds differently in response to testosterone. Like you just don't retain as much water. I retained a good bit of water for about 6 months on TRT in the very beginning. Yeah, I retained some water. Was I managing estrogen initially? Yes, I was, on and off, but not as much as I should have been. And I was using cypionate, which is, of all the esters, the most guaranteed to give you not only water retention, but side effects and sexual dysfunction, a host of other fucking things. So, if anything, I mean, just switch to testosterone, anything, and that will help. But control your estradiol and give this time. Yeah, give this time. I mean, otherwise, like maybe up your caffeine intake so you can have more of a diuretic effect via caffeine inhibiting arginine vasopressin. It's your antidiuretic hormone, and then getting some of that water out of the system. Last resort would be, the careful use of diuretics in this case, or supplements that act in a diuretic fashion, and that would get some of that out. Chris Stoddard is asking, how true is it when you drop body fat, you convert less of your T to estrogen? I think that this is, although true, it's pretty overblown. Yeah, like I think that it's not a substantial difference if you become super lean versus semi-lean. Now, if you're substantially overweight and then you become super lean over a 1 year period, which is how you would sustainably do that, then you will aromatase less. How much less? Instead of needing 25 milligrams of aromasin twice a week, you'll need 25 aromasin once a week, really. I mean, it's not a drastic difference, but it is enough of a difference. So you definitely want to work on lowering body fat for sure. But, on TRT, I've not really had high levels of body fat, but there were times where I had more body fat, and it was inconsequential for me personally. But again, I think the big jump is when you're very, very excessive body fat versus pretty lean. That's the big jump in less aromatization. Any supplements that you know of that will help with eczema? No, I think these things are gut borne. I think they're gut related, even though they're touted as immune system related, which by the way is in your gut. Your immune system is entirely in your gut. So yeah, like I know people with psoriasis that if they target optimizing digestion, they have less psoriasis, so just something to think about, brother. Darren Hawkins, I use 25 gauge 1.5 inch needle. Should I be concerned with scar tissue? No, I mean, you should be mindful of it. I wouldn't be concerned about it. Those are two different, words. Because concern implies it's like some big issue over time, and it really isn't going to be. Mindful, yeah, you should be mindful of it. There might be a point where you want to run thinner, higher gauge 1.5 inch needles for intramuscular injections. Or if you can metabolize it correctly, just run sub-Q injections of testosterone, but only if you metabolize it correctly. There are people for whom subcutaneous injections of testosterone they just don't work for them. That they're metabolizing it too slow, or they're clearing it too fast, or some sort of dynamic within the, this extravascular tissue is fucking causing them not to really absorb their testosterone in some meaningful way, or quick enough, despite relatively fine blood levels. I see this kind of shit all the time. So, try to find a higher gauge needle if I were you. I mean, you can find some pretty fucking thin 1.5 inch needles. I have them. They're so thin that I'm not worried about when I'm running intramuscular injections, scar tissue. Grab Bender have 2 milligram scales. I guess they're not effective. Can you recommend a good bram? You want to get the Gemini milligram scale if you can find it on Amazon. Yeah. Chris, try weighing out a slightly larger amount and then having it, and maybe having it again. That's eyeballing it. So, but it might work or be somewhat close. But yeah, you just want to get a good milligram scale that measures in milligrams, starting from 1 milligram and upward. Those you can find on Amazon. All right, Kyle, how is DHT powder different from Proviron? Any differences between oral and sublingual administration? Differences between oral and sublingual administration of DHT there's some degree of difference. When I take it orally, so that I can make sure it doesn't get destroyed by stomach acid, I use an enteric coated capsule so that it basically opens up further down the digestive tract rather than getting destroyed by all the hydrochloric acid. Sublingually, it just tends to hit a little quicker and be a little more potent in the acute period. Either way, it has a pretty short half-life, DHT itself. Regarding the differences between DHT and Proviron, I would say DHT at the right dose has a more profound effect on erections and girth. Proviron does too, but it's just not as powerful as DHT. They both lower SHBG. Proviron will lower your estrogen far more than DHT will. DHT is really blocking the genetic expression of estrogen and probably lowering estrogen a little bit dose dependently, and is dependent on the quantity of DHT that you're intaking. I recently experimented with 200 milligrams of DHT at once, which is fucking absurd. It's a lot of DHT. And I had low estrogen symptoms for about a day and a half after doing that. So there's that. But those are the major differences. Both act as a nootropic in my experience. Like, they make you feel confident and your brain works better and faster and you're happier. They're antidepressants, man. I mean, Proviron, powerful antidepressant. DHT powder, powerful antidepressant. Like, you're just happier when you take them. It's really great. So those are the major differences. And if you can isolate it to one important thing, it's that Proviron is an AI. You know, it's a mild aromatase inhibitor, but it does act as an AI, whereas DHT, a lot less so. It's mainly just going to act like DHT does and not really do a whole lot about estradiol. Oron agrees about the gut autoimmune connection. Appreciate your response, of course. Deviling, how long have I been making YouTube content? I don't know. I want to say like 10 years or so. I think this channel launched in its infancy where we're doing like one video a week on nootropics for a while in 2015. Yeah, so it'll be 10 years in just a couple months here since this channel officially launched. Yeah, a good degree of the time we were talking about nootropics. Then we got banned, I think it was 5 times, because nootropics were back then, at least in YouTube's eyes, somewhat of an iffy topic, and they had conflated it with the use of other shit, and I don't know, they just had a problem with it. So we struggled to even get like past 15,000 subscribers for like 4 years because we kept getting fucking banned. And each time that happens, you kind of get shit canned in the algorithm where they don't show your videos to anybody, you know, or few people. So it was only until probably late 2022, and I want to say early 2023, where like the seeming shadow banned state of our channel had let up a little bit, and you know, we started to actually gain subscribers again. It was really fucking weird. But all in all, yeah, 10 years or so. 10 years, brother. But I've been making content regarding nootropics, health optimization, marketing. I've been making content on the internet for just about 20 years. Yeah, since well, a little bit before the United States Army, and then a little bit after I got out of the Army. Yeah, I've been making content for a while. You know, some people are content creators, bro. They're just born to do it, or have the the photogenicity to do it, or whatever, like to have stuff to say. You know, like if you've got shit to say to people, man, do content. People will listen over time if you just continue saying it. You know, if you're just passionate about shit that you feel like people don't have a good enough angle on. You know, sometimes I figure stuff out that people don't have an angle on. They haven't been able to figure out an angle on. I think that's why I get a lot of sexual dysfunction consults, because I figured shit out that, like, you know, world-renowned TRT doctors haven't been able to figure out because they just haven't thought about it. They don't have an angle on it. They don't get enough people with these issues. Sexual dysfunction, PFS, PSSD. I was recruited by these people because of my interest in content around neuroscience to try to help them. Because the theory at that time was it was strictly a neurological issue, but it turned out to be an endocrine issue mainly. So if you've got anything unique to say that, you know, you think can help the world, start putting it out. I enjoy you being here, brother. Any other questions, guys? If you got them, ask them in the meantime. Remember, the source list is officially live at livecortex.com. This is a vetted list of anabolic agents, hormone hacking compounds, ancillary, all the stuff that we typically talk about, including sources for DHT gel, and not just one, there are two. And then obviously sources for raw DHT itself. Okay, it's a vetted list, and I think the value in this list is not only in the sources that I personally use for UGL, TAST, etc., Astron, Primo, anything you can fucking think of, but also at the end of it, there's an online resource where reviews are given for like 50 additional vendors. Okay, so you get to see people's experiences with shipping time, quality of product, purity of product, customer service, payment, etc., with way more vendors than I give in the source list. So it's like my top vendors, and then it's a list of 50 other fucking vendors that are all vetted by people on the web, and you get to read their reviews. I think that's the value in the source list, honestly. You know, and interestingly, like as I, you know, those of you that have gotten it, like the first 3 or 4 vendors that I've got listed are all I ever go to for stuff. You know, I just wanted to list, I think there's 6 major ones and a lot of their products, and then again this list for a bunch of other additional ones. But the source list is probably one of the most valuable pieces of content I think I've ever put out, that we've put out in a long time, specifically because it will not only save you a lot of time, it will get you things you want. How much value is that you can't get otherwise? And for things like HCG, it'll save you a lot of money. Again, I just bought for, I want to say it was like $150, 10 5,000 IU vials of HCG. That's crazy, because one 10,000 IU vial of Pregnal is $250 from Empower Pharmacy or Defy Medical. Fuck that, dude. So you're going to save a lot of money, time, and get some of the things that you want that you can't get otherwise. Michael, what's happening, mate? So I just got put on 100 milligrams TRT a week, and this started 2 weeks ago. Is this an effective dose for a 30-year-old? 270 nanograms per deciliter originally. It might be. You're going to have to figure that out over time. I'll tell you what, I mean, if you start off at 100 and you get full symptom resolution, and you feel great and don't have to manage estrogen, just stay there. Just stay there. You know? Just stay there. Sometimes it's less complicated for people to do just what you're doing. I could not sustain on 100 milligrams of testosterone a week, but that's because I've gradually increased my dose over time, although I've never really felt good at 100 milligrams a week. My body needs more of that. At 210 a week, I was making 1,100 total tests, so that's not like substantial for 200 milligrams a week. So I just require higher doses. Quite honestly, though, TRT, you're going to want to, I mean, my opinion is you're going to want to start at least 150 milligrams a week. Yeah, split that up into 3 injections, do it intramuscular, don't take an AI initially, see where estrogen goes. If you ultimately find you need to run aromatase, specifically start running that at lower doses. Make sure DHEA, pregnenolone, HCG is in the picture. For sure, brother. Hope you're great. Dave Brody, PT141 can't be used frequently and is not that consistent. How is it working? Do you have any alternative compounds? Yeah, it works via releasing a bunch of hypothalamic dopamine. That's what the melanocortin receptors do when agonized. The reason it's not consistent is because you have a finite amount of that hypothalamic dopamine, which downregulates the more you force it out. That's why you can take PT141 and it'll work great for a day or 2 days or something, and then if you just keep dosing, it'll stop working until you stop taking it for a while, come back, circle back to it, and then you'll be making enough of the dopamine or have enough of it to release when PT141 forces it via these melanocortin receptors. There's plenty of alternative compounds, but need more context. That's too general of a question. Mike, is the sourceless underground stuff for pharma? It's both. Yep, there's pharmaceutical grade, and then there's UGL. But the UGL sources are basically pharmaceutical-like operations, but they're not legit pharmaceutical companies. But some of them are. Some of them are. Yeah, yeah, and those are listed, within the document, within the source list. Like these are all pharma grade compounds, etc. Yeah, I mean, there's one source on there, a pretty popular source, among bodybuilders and people like Vigorous Steve, that is strictly pharmaceutical grade, everything. So yeah, you get your pick there, man. AB, I know your stance on PSSD is predominantly endocrinological. That being said, for someone who has tried different hormone protocols with minimal success for anhedonia, what are your favorite tools? I need more context in this because like you said, you tried various hormone protocols, but I don't know what those protocols are. And it is likely that those hormone protocols were not right. You know, there is a science to dialing in hormone protocols. My assessment on this would be that you haven't had the right hormone protocol. Yes, that would be my assessment. Not the least of which is the use of exogenous DHT. I bet your anhedonia would clear if you used exogenous DHT. Have you used that? No, right? So, you know, it's hormones are the answer to all problems related to PSSD. It just has to be the, you know, the right one. No, source list, typically, I think there may be 1 or 2 sources that accept the card. You're going to be paying using crypto mainly. Yeah, anything that you're going to be purchasing anabolic wise on the web these days, it's crypto. So, you know, get yourself with some of your cash money into actual cryptocurrency, which you can do with websites like Robinhood. I believe you can do that with Cash App in the matter of minutes. It's very simple. And then you just basically buy the stuff with crypto. You know, if people are apprehensive about that or don't have crypto, like, where have you been the last 10 years? Cryptocurrency is a major form of currency. I pay with crypto all the time. You know, I recently got a $5,000 consult in crypto. So, you know, there are a couple credit card sources, largely though, all crypto, which is very easy to do, very easy to put your money into, some of your money from your bank into cryptocurrency and then send to the source. Thank you, brother. I'm getting there. I'm a little fat now. I've been, I don't want to say partying, but I've been hanging out with, with friends like you every night for the last 2 weeks. I've been hanging out with this group of people. It's actually different groups of people, but you know, like rotating between 2 or 3 different groups of like 12 people. I've just been out hanging out at nighttime lately. So I've certainly been eating a little more than usual, but it's helping. I guess it's helping me stay anabolic. That's for sure. I've definitely got to watch my diet and stuff otherwise. B Mill, been on 100 milligrams of test cream for 3 weeks, stronger and getting leaner, but not much sensitivity down there, rubbing on shoulders. What to do? Look at your estrogen, man. Also, though, again, with TRT, you have to make sure that you're taking DHEA, and you have to make sure you're taking pregnenolone, and you have to make sure you're dosing HCG. Without those things, you're going to have problems. And, you know, one of the most common problems without those drugs in the system is sensitivity problems. Yep. You might need to take exogenous DHT. You might need to take aromatase to get the estrogen down. I mean, you're only on 3 weeks, but also, though, did you have sensation issues before you started TRT? Right? If you did, then this is going to take a while to fix, and you might need to do penile rehab. Might need to take some citrulline, might need to run some penis pumps, might need to run some tadalafil. You know, it's all very complex, man. And there's a lot that you might have to do in the case of coming to TRT with, you know, previous sensation issues that you've got to fix now, that you've got to take some time to fix. That's just the line on the bottom here, brethren. But yeah, I mean, people are going to find alone that adding DHEA to their regimens increases sensation. But like, you're also going to find, like, if you talk to enough people or, you know, deal with enough people, that when estradiol gets too high, it causes sensation problems. It does. Dopamine in the brain interplays with sensation too. If you have little of that, which high estradiol causes, little of dopamine or inhibition of certain areas of the brain relative to dopamine, and then you're going to have sensation issues as well. So you got to get to the bottom of dialing in your protocol. It's not just about TRT, not just about TRT. PT141 is not exclusively directly working on D2 receptors, although the dopamine that it creates from the hypothalamus will bind to pituitary D2 receptors. Yeah, but that's not its direct mechanism. Yes, these things are effective for boosting free test to a degree, but not very effective. I would call them marginally effective. Benefits of running DHA pregnenolone on TRT. What else can I do to increase libido? Don't know. Don't know, man. Don't know. What do you mean? What's your protocol? What's your protocol? What's your protocol? Why don't you have libido? What dose of testosterone are you on? What ester of testosterone are you on? What's your estradiol lately? Have you been managing it? Are you taking aromatase or arimidex? What's the dose? Taking HCG? You know, have you looked at your DHT labs? Nuance, boys. Nuance. If you're asking this question that basically, then it means you're not thinking about this from any type of systems perspective, man. Yeah. I mean, if you're taking 100 milligrams test C, get on DHEA, get on pregnenolone, get on HCG, control your estrogen. MV, hello, Ryan. What dopaminergic agents and precursors would you recommend for working long hours? Quite honestly, I would just stick with tried and true and take modafinil. If I were you in this case, yeah, I would just take modafinil. Secondarily, you could take Torque. I mean, this is comparable to modafinil. I built it myself. So I'm the guy that's been talking about the pharmacology and the neuroscience of nootropics for about 15 years total on the web, 10 years on this channel. And then I built this. So I'm the sort of father of like modern day nootropic discussion. And I built a nootropic. It's called Torque. Take that. And if you don't take that, take modafinil. Those are the lowest hanging, most effective fruit. Quite honestly, for this case. Singular compounds would be really the methylxanthines like teacrine and theobromine and dynamine. Those three. Take them together or individually at different doses. You know, you'll have to kind of experiment and see what works for you. But yeah, those would be the compounds that I would suggest. Modafinil, Torque, or teacrine, dynamine, theobromine, either together or separately. Kyle, can you use propylene glycol as a solvent to make a liquid DHT solution? I don't know. Usually use 40% vodka when making tinctures with other powders. I think the best way to make a liquid DHT, or well, I don't know if you'd want a liquid. Do you mean an injectable DHT? You'd probably have to ask ChatGPT that. But if you got some DMSO, some aloe vera, and some DHT powder, you could make a DHT cream effectively, basically a DHT gel at any percent you want. But you would also have to ask ChatGPT, you know, like how much DHT to put in, how much aloe vera, whatever, and it would tell you. It would actually tell you. ChatGPT could tell you how to make DHT gel. Believe me. Alex is on TRT plus Cialis. What can I do to improve that department? What department? B complex would be the one that I take is Bioactive B complex by Life Extension. You can find that on Amazon. Yeah, pretty effective. I mean, it's got all the B's in enough quantity and it's pretty effective. Darren, what would happen if you use modafinil when using cabergoline? Please spell these words out. These aren't street drugs, guys. Caber is a lazy way of a bunch of idiots who don't know anything about the goddamn drug, who talk about the drug on the internet. And I'm sorry, because it's YouTubers, frankly. She's the full name of the drug, but there's a very small chance you'd run into some degree of dopamine toxicity, which would probably give you brain fog, would probably make you very impulsive to do things that you wouldn't ordinarily do. So you got to be careful there. I don't know that it would be necessarily dangerous, but I wouldn't suggest taking the two together. Zen friend with a super chat. Thank you, brother. Appreciate that, man. If someone is required to get the jab, what prophylactic med supplements would you consider researching in order to negate some of the thing or side effects? Maybe methylene blue or other things with mRNA. Thanks, brother. I mean, if you're required to engage in what is ultimately quantifiably a somewhat tested but largely untested in the grand scheme of how long it actually should take for vaccines to be approved via the Food and Drug Administration. Wanted to say that correctly in case YouTube tries to fucking fuck with me. Then in this case, there is no documented prophylactic for that. There's no documented prophylactic for that. Unfortunately, because of the proposed in the scientific literature, we'll just say, the proposed negative outcomes in a certain set of susceptible individuals as a result of experimenting with said compound. Yeah, like, I mean, there's things like nattokinase, which will help you break small clots, which, you know, should be, quit your fucking job. Yeah, quit your fucking job. There's no reason to put your body in jeopardy. I wouldn't. I'd quit my job. I'd quit my job and figure out how to make money otherwise. Listen, do you understand right now that there are lawsuits that are being won by people that were forced to get this thing? That they're being forced to pay back pay for letting people go that said they wouldn't get it through the legal system? You're on the right side of history now. Okay, we now understand that there's problems with these fucking things, you know, and there's all matter of legal action being taken against people that force people to do it. Take legal action, right? You know, you will win if you're persistent enough. Don't take it. It would be my fucking suggestion, man. Otherwise, there is no prophylactic because, again, due to the seriousness of the deleterious proposed mechanisms that are laid out in the scientific literature at this point, there's not a definitive protocol. There's not a definitive protocol. Yeah, this guy said it. Hackersgate, I'm a passive man. Would it be bad to take compounds to make me impulsive, or is it dangerous kind? No, I don't think so. I think one of the things you recognize, like, early on, getting on TRT, if you're not used to high androgens, and even if you were, but then you go pretty super physiologic, is you become way more assertive. I couldn't imagine myself as an entrepreneur and as I don't know. An assertive guy in life. Like I'm very active, and not just physically, but I like live in a big city and there's people everywhere doing crazy shit. I'm always getting into new things, but especially relative to business productivity, I couldn't imagine myself not on TRT. So one of the things I learned on testosterone, even though I had pretty high levels of test prior that were slowly beginning to drop, was that, yeah, my assertiveness just went like this, and my productivity just went whoosh, like very crazy addition of hours in the day where I can function and think. I'm thinking all the way up until the time I go to bed, and I love it. I'm just always thinking, getting stuff done in my brain. I'm getting stuff done in the brain. So no, I think this is no. You're not going to become dangerous. I think if you take some large amount of a heavy dopamine agent, then you might be you might go gamble some of your money away, which you wouldn't want to do. Here we go. Quit. Oh, is the anonymous opening his mouth again? That's funny. I haven't even been paying attention. Chris Stoddard. Okay, so we got a super chat. Master RC, DHT protocol once a day or just before sex? Well, it depends on what you want to do, man. Yeah, I mean, if you're trying to restore erectile quality via optimizing penile endothelial function, and you're trying to reverse fibrosis, which DHT has the ability to do over a 3 to 6 month period, you're going to want to do it every day, and you're going to want to take between 20 and 50 milligrams. It doesn't appear, at least at this point in my understanding of it, that, like insane doses of 100 to 200 milligrams are particularly useful in any of these regards. So I think, again, 20 to 50 milligrams, 30 to 50 milligrams would be useful every day. Take that orally. I wouldn't really take it sublingually. I think you just want to take it orally. Do that in an enteric coated capsule if you can find them. You can find them on Amazon, enteric coated capsules, which means they'll survive stomach acid and go down into the intestinal tract further, where they can be effective and not be destroyed by stomach acid. But I mean, if all systems work fine, then yeah, 5 to 10 milligrams sublingually before sex would be pretty useful for optimizing erectile quality. You're going to more optimize sensation and ejaculate volume doing it. Yeah. But erectile quality should be slightly better as well, taking that dose. Before sex is also useful, again, assuming nothing else is problematic with your situation, then taking it before sex would be just fine. Michael, been put on dopamine reuptake inhibitors like Wellbutrin. Tried all kinds of dopamine supplements like L-Dopa or tyrosine. None of these have had any impact or mood on increasing libido. Well, look, I mean, like macunapurines or tyrosine, they convert to other things, and they're not inhibiting the reuptake of dopamine like Wellbutrin is. So it's a very different drug, and the effect that keeping dopamine in the synapse does with Wellbutrin compared to some of these other things is it's just a lot more pronounced, right? You keep that dopamine around. There's more to activate the receptors, and so yeah, you'll have a better effect on libido. If you tried all these things and none of them help libido, well, then you have a hormone problem. You have an endocrine problem. It's not strictly a neurological issue. Justice Archives, can you take 9-MeBC indefinitely daily? I wouldn't suggest it because we don't know. Like, there's no study on someone taking 9-MeBC every day. I've not taken it every day. I think the longest I've taken it was 50 days with a 2-week break and then another 50 days. So, it's a research chemical. It's not like modafinil, where like modafinil, as an example, you can take every day. You can, and you'll be fine. I know people that have taken modafinil for like 40 fucking years, as long as the goddamn drug's been around. So we just don't know. My suspicion, dude, I just don't know. And no, you wouldn't run into desensitization. It does basically the opposite. Yeah, it does the opposite. I think it's useful in small stints at high doses. That's what it's useful for, doing good things. Long term, nobody knows. And I out of being responsible, I can't suggest that you do that, I just can't do that. Like you is saying, took my first injection of TRT at 150 milligrams in HCG a week, Thursday. So not sure what HCG dose is there. I tried to tell my doctor that's not enough, but he says, let's wait 4 weeks. Well, that's a good starting dose. TRT, testosterone at 150 is a good starting dose. So, let it run its course. In 4 to 6 weeks, if this is cypionate, which it probably is, then you're going to ultimately reach your blood peak level of testosterone at like week 5, week 6. And then you'll stay thereafter. At that week 5 onward period, you'll then really get to gauge how things are. If you have to manage estrogen, which you probably will at that point a little bit, a very minor amount, then you do that. Good thing you're on HCG. I would add DHA and pregnenolone for sure. For sure. Jay Brody, is serotonin anti-masculine and bad for entrepreneurs? I don't know the answer to that question. I think enough of it is good for you to be in a pleasant mood and to be happy about life, to be generally happy about life. I have this long-standing strategy of eating a lot of yogurt. If I start to just get fucking down in life, it's usually my signal that I might, for whatever reason, be making a little less serotonin than I should. I don't know how that happens or whatever. I mean, I'm generally conscious about tryptophan-based foods and getting them in my regimen, like bananas. But, sometimes I don't eat bananas, right? Or whatever. So I might need to dose a little yogurt, which have basically serotonin-producing bacteria in them, which make me happier. But, I think, look, there's a limit to everything. You don't want excessive serotonin because you're probably going to be lazy and not effective. Might just be too fucking happy for your own good, or it might numb you out. I mean, it does in excess quantities have at least an inhibitory control over dopamine. So you just don't want too much serotonin. You want enough, and you don't want too much, and you don't want too little either. AB gets flu-like symptoms whenever I inject test. Yeah, this is test flu. This happens to people. It happened to me on the first probably week or so of dosing testosterone enanthate, after which I went down a little bit on dose, used prop for a little, then back up to half a gram of enanthate, and I was fine. So, there's just an adjustment period. Test flu itself goes away between 2 and 3 weeks if you can stand it. If you can't, I understand, and you might need to switch to a short ester, and I guarantee you won't get it then. Generally, though, it's transient. It won't be forever. So you might want to look at switching the ester, or trying to figure out why your immune system in this case probably is just overreacting to testosterone. Start high dosing some vitamin D, maybe run some vitamin C. I mean, these are things that are low hanging fruit that you should try. Additionally, though, I think your body needs to be like, dude, to tolerate high doses of test, your body needs to be so tip top that you can't really be fucking around, man. I mean, you can have some beers and whatever, but you do the cardio then the next day. Do the fucking cardio at the gym. Work out, eat good otherwise, and you should be fine. But yeah, I mean, look at your ester. Look at the ester. Look at the source. Those are all driving forces for flu-like symptoms. Yeah, but also look at your health. Look at your health. If you can optimize it by doing some of the things that I just discussed, I bet you won't have that response anymore. Swish or swish. After being fully shut down, how long does it take for 750 IU of HCG per week to get the balls back to baseline? At that dose, it shouldn't be long. I mean, they'll be bigger and fuller probably within a week. Will that be a full revitalization of testicular function? Probably not. You might need to inject a little more than that. I run 500 IU every other day. I'll probably always do that unless 250 IU every other day works, but 500 IU is better for me personally. Yeah. Leaky Void, difference between DHT gel and DHT raws with olive oil. It seems as if you can absorb a little more of the DHT while taking it with a fat. The oral DHT, they are different, okay? The DHT gel, I'm sure it was going some systemic, but I think some of it actually did operate locally. It was providing a little more of an erectogenic and a semen concentration benefit acutely, but less of a neurological benefit, interestingly. Whereas the DHT powder does everything, right? It acts as a nootropic. It makes me super confident. It makes me fucking super happy. Makes me energized. Maybe it contributes a little bit to my physique, and it just makes my physique look a little tighter, even if I have a little more body fat. Like right now, I've got a lot of body fat on me. I do not have abs. I have a good degree of body fat on me, but the DHT kind of allows me to stay a little lean. And then of course, yeah, I mean, so the DHT powder basically does everything, whereas the gel, it's hard to say. It likely acts much more locally and then somewhat systemically, and probably clears the system a little faster, would be my assessment. Although I just don't know. They are different though. How many hours after test prop injection would estrogen be peaking? Well, it would start to go up right away within about an hour, 2 hours. Peaking, you're probably looking at between 15 and 19 hours is when estradiol, I think, would peak. Yeah. Peter Wrangler, I have reached single digit prolactin with cabergoline and I feel great. Can I drop the cabergoline and maintain single digits with P5P? It is likely that you can do this. Yes, likely that you can do this, but you're going to have to be dosing 50 milligrams 3 times daily to do that, I think. Yep. Yeah, you can do it. I've done it. Let's just say that I've kept prolactin in a reasonably close range, lower than my normal baseline with the usage of P5P. So it does work. And this is not a bad strategy, you know? I mean, not that cabergoline is dangerous, because it isn't. I mean, you'd have to take for 5 years straight, like a milligram a week or some large number in order for it to become potentially troublesome on cardiac function, which is reversible the moment you stop taking it. So it's really not a dangerous drug to take. But if your strategy is to just not take cabergoline a lot, then do that. Do exactly what you're saying. Find your dose. Maybe add some Shasandra to the P5P, and I think it would be more effective for you. Do I think it matters whether you inject HCG every other day or Monday, Wednesday, Friday? No, it's not. That's not big of a difference right there. Every other day versus Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I mean, Monday, Wednesday, Friday is basically every other day, with the exception of you just take a break that Sunday and then you start again on Monday. So I don't think that's a big difference, really. It depends on the dose, though. Like, these 250 IU doses are out of the blood in terms of serum HCG concentrations in 48 hours, whereas 500 IU doses of HCG stay pretty maxed out through the 72-hour period, after which they drop very quickly. Dopamina? Have you ever seen anyone react terribly to pregnenolone? Decrease blood flow and blood stimulation while reacting very well to DHEA levels, even if DHEA or serum levels are, DHEA sulfate serum levels are high. Have I ever seen anyone react terribly to pregnenolone? No. I've probably seen people make errors in attribution on some side effect that they're having, that it's pregnenolone, but really it's pregnenolone's interaction with something else. Yeah, I've seen that before. And that could be what's happening to you. But, you know, decreased blood flow and blunted stimulation are too nebulous for me to address here, man. AB, one more question. Hypothetically, would going to cycle levels of test recover PSSD symptoms faster, more effectively than moderate ones, granted estrogen is managed? Yes, the answer is yes. Yeah, all these conditions are as a result of androgen deprivation. Now, if you go to PubMed and read all the papers on the penile fibrosis, the collagen deposition, the reduction in smooth muscle content that happens in penile tissues as a result of androgen deprivation, you would understand why higher levels of testosterone are necessary for these conditions. Yeah. Yep. Yes. Yeah. And lastly, as a cherry on top, like the longer you stay with erectile dysfunction, the worse erectile function gets. Okay. So you need to fucking run to getting this resolved if you're somebody who has any of these issues. How many hours? This is a good question. So the sublingual DHT is probably a little more short-lived than the oral DHT for me. Can't really explain how, other than a faster absorption. But yeah, I generally feel the motivated, confident happiness. I take it at like noon when I take it. up until 6 or 7 p.m. probably. Yeah, is when I think it's at its most powerful, nootropic-like effect. Half-life of citrulline is not very much. I don't know it off the top of my head. I believe it's a few hours, but you have to ask the question, what is the half-life of the nitric oxide that is created from it? What's the half-life of the arginine that's converted from it? Those are the real important questions. Jeff, does HCG lower my libido due to high estrogen? It is likely that that's the problem. Like if you're taking HCG and you're just getting markedly lower libido from it, then it's probably just lowering, or it's just increasing estrogen a little too much for you. Now that may or may not balance out. I don't know. If you leave it alone for 6 weeks, you might be fine. If you leave it alone for 6 weeks and shit doesn't get better, then you need to start dosing an AI or a DHT derivative to fix that. And don't feel bad about doing that, brother. Some people have to do it. I got to do it on TRT doses. It's just, my estrogen could be sitting at 35. It's like at TRT doses, it kind of needs to be between 25, just like 22 to 20 to 30, little bit of an AI, just right back in the sweet spot. It goes through this cycle where it's a little lower, then it can come back up again. Things are good until it reaches a certain point after which things are bad. All right, dream big. How many hours after 500 IU HCG injection would estrogen be peaking? Well, it doesn't work that way. I think you're just going to get a sustained release, a sustained increase in estradiol via aromatization in the testicles from testosterone. Yeah, it's not like you get a bolus like 10 to 15 picograms per milliliter or something. You just get kind of sustained estradiol, which if you're not used to that, or if you hadn't been taking HCG prior, probably bump your estradiol up 10 to 15 points. Yeah, maybe 20 points, entirely possible. Why does estrogen increase prolactin? I think there's a couple mechanisms. I think the most prominent mechanism is that estradiol acts as a competitive antagonist at the D2 dopamine receptors, preventing dopamine from binding to those receptors, which is one of the only majorly powerful control mechanisms of prolactin secretion, is those dopamine D2 receptors. So estradiol is interfering with dopamine's ability to bind to the D2 receptors in the pituitary lactotropes. That's why. Yep, that's why. And it's like it just really, it depends on the amount of estradiol in the system and how consistently it's there. The longer you have high levels of estradiol, the more you're going to get a negative effect on prolactin. DNAV, total T, 1550. Pretty good. Estradiol 69. Okay. Doc prescribed 1 milligram of anastrozole per week, but started at 0.25 2 times per week. What is a good range you think my estradiol should be at this time, sitting at high dose? At that level of test, you probably want to be between 30 and 55 picograms per milliliter. So I wouldn't be taking 0.25 twice a week of anastrozole. No. If anything, 0.125 once every 7 days is what I would do if I were you. Otherwise, I'd be taking 3.125 or 6.25 aromatase once every 7 days. Yeah, that'd be my suggestion. Brother. Dopamina. Yeah, man, if I pop 500 milligrams pregnenolone sublingual, I get very bad blood flow and anhedonia for hours compared to okay, then you have some issue that you're not telling me about. That's some pre-existing thing. That is not a common response at all. So, yeah, and I'm sure you know what I'm talking about, because there's zero way you respond that way to pregnenolone if you don't have pre-existing issues. Casey Jones, my dihydrotestosterone level is 84. This is using Proviron for a couple weeks, 12.5 milligrams a day. Didn't notice much in the libido department. Should I stay the course a while on my number? Just bump the dose up. Yeah, you have to be careful. Proviron's an AI, so it's going to lower your estrogen. So if you're on some modest TRT dose and you're lowering your estrogen to the low 20s or something, or 15, and that just doesn't work for your libido, well, then you're not going to have libido. Proviron isn't like a libido enhancer for everybody. It's lowering estrogen and getting you in a good range of estrogen, and it's increasing the shit out of your free hormones, including dihydrotestosterone, as well as optimizing binding domains for the androgen receptor, making testosterone more potent at the AR. So all those things should lead to better libido unless it takes your estrogen too low. But, you might want to just run 25 a day, the standard 25 a day. Make sure your testosterone dose, if your dosing test is high enough, like 150 to 200 at least, and then, give it 4 to 6 weeks. And if this doesn't change, then probably you're lowering estrogen a little too much, or it's not enough proviron and you might need to run 50 a day, might need to run. Just to give you an idea, like when I was running 525 milligrams of testosterone theta a week, if I took 25 milligrams proviron for 2 days, so if I took 25 on Monday, 25 on Tuesday, I would then not need to take an AI for an additional 5 or 6 days. 5 or 6 days, my libido and my boners would be fucking crazy, and I'd want to like jerk off 3 times a day, and I would feel so fucking good sexually. So it's a potent, it can be potent at reducing estradiol. Remember, that's on a 0.5 gram of testosterone a week. So, I guess everybody's different, but the stuff is potent, man. Jim. Hello, Jim. Jim says, some say high estrogen feels like low estrogen. It is true, but there is a distinct difference. Ultra low estrogen, especially induced by AIs, and you will be less likely to be able to get a full erection. If you crash your estrogen, and crash is different for different people, but generally below 15 picograms per milliliter, or moving down to even 20, but too fast. So like the tissue level estradiol is probably super fucking low, even though the serum says you're okay. Then yeah, I mean, it's gonna be hard to even get a fucking erection. Whereas if you're at 67 picograms per milliliter of estradiol, you could still get an erection, but it'll be harder. It'll be a little numb, a little less sensitive. It'll be harder to achieve the full erection. It'll take more work. It'll probably take you longer to climax. The brain side will be a little disconnected from it all, which will make it harder to climax. And with ultra low estrogen, your brain will be completely muted regarding libido. You just won't have any interest at all. You could have a naked woman in front of you and you don't want to. It's like, mentally you like everything you see, but it doesn't do anything for you. So they are the same. However, I should say, correction, they are similar. However, they're not exactly the same. Yeah, no, there has to be something, or you're taking some other drug that's neuroactive. Definitely, there's a reason for that. But without look again, what you see me doing is trying to get into the nuance of your regimen, and trying to get into what I would do in the beginning of a call with a new client, which is fact finding, which we can't do here. You could super chat something like $50 or $60 and do it, but I doubt you'll do that. Dream big. Have you ever heard of your clients getting less aromatization from sublingual DHT pregnenolone rather than oral? Have I heard of this? No. I think I understand where you're going with that, but no, I don't. I think it would be marginal at best if there's like some degree of difference in the aromatization. So yeah, I don't think it would be that significant, brethren. What's up, brethren? Does dopamine make you more dominant, less submissive, or is it testosterone DHT? I think androgens and their binding in the brain is what ultimately makes a man, which is disagreeable, not submissive. That's a feminine trait, and dominant and assertive, which is a male trait. Yeah, but I mean, testosterone alone in the absence of DHT, in the complete absence of DHT, is not very good for those things, which really tells you that it's dihydrotestosterone that causes the masculine traits, which it is. That's in the literature, so there's no like debating that topic. But again, guys have feminization when they take finasteride. That's because you convert more to estradiol, a female fucking hormone, than you do to DHT. Of course, you're gonna have feminization. Yeah, DHT is the predominantly masculinizing hormone. That's another reason I think confidence comes from taking exogenous DHT or proviron, because you're just getting that DHT-like effect on ARs in the brain. That's probably what that is. Man. Is kratom an contraindication with DHEA? Hell yeah, man. Kratom will fuck with your dopamine D2 receptors and will increase prolactin, which is bad with a mild androgen that converts to testosterone. Okay, Dell is saying, does the list have a lead for Trimix? No, that's a good question though. I should have put that on there. Just go to olympiapharmaceuticals.com. Is it olympiapharmaceuticals.com? Just look for Olympia Pharmaceuticals, and you'll find Trimix. But it's not UGL. You have to do a consult with a doctor, which will be, it's like $35. They'll do it with basically anyone. They want to sell product, and just tell them you have ED, and they'll give you Trimix. Bottom line, brother. All right, boys, I'm gonna end the stream. I got some stuff to do. I gotta go work out, so I've got to eat a little bit quick, and then I'm gonna go fucking push it at the gym today. I don't know, I'm having some shoulder injury, so I gotta figure out exactly what workout to do that I can actually do. Then we're gonna run on the treadmill, doing some high interval, some sprints basically, and then after that I've got some people to hang out with, brother. Source list is live, livecortex.com. Go get it. Okay, anyone that wants sources for anabolics that you don't want to have to go through your clinic or whatever, or stuff that you'll never otherwise get, if you want to save money on everything, just get stuff from the source list. It's at livecortex.com. The investment of, right now the price is $100 of this, $99. The investment you'll get your investment back in a week. You'll make your investment back in the first purchase of product is what you'll do. But you'll have this forever. It will be updated as more sources come through or sources become vetted or invalidated. And it's pretty fucking awesome, boys. If you need to hire me, I've got right now 3 slots open for this next 3 to 6 month period. I just had someone book me for a year. You know, I've had people book me for 3.5 months, 4 months, and 6 months respectively very recently. So I've only got a couple slots left. If you need to hire me, please do so. It's where we get a lot of the fucking work done, boys. Otherwise, content coming this Monday, Wednesday, probably Friday. Live stream next week, same time, 9 a.m., 9:30 a.m. Eastern time. On Saturday. And boys, it's been an absolute pleasure. I love your questions. I love the fact that you guys are here, and I'll chat with you soon. Yeah. Oh yeah, sure. Yeah. Do I? Okay. Yeah, give me like 10-15 minutes. I'm gonna get ready and hit the gym, and let's talk let me call you when I'm en route to the gym. Okay.